Hello and welcome back to the X-Files Revisited. We are on to episode 18, which is Max, the second of our two-parter. Brian, tell us a little about the legacy of Max.
Well, yeah, it's the, as you say, second part of a two-parter. Two-parters are usually a pretty big deal. They tend to be a big mythology stuff. I went into quite a bit last week with regards to how I feel this one. You could take it out and no one would notice it was gone, but that doesn't stop it from being what I consider to be a really solid, when put together, X-Files movie. I honestly think bigger budget, throw it on the big screen, this would have made an excellent first film, because you don't have to be so bogged down by the mythology. You don't have to be a X-Files super fan to get what's going on, and yet it still gives you just enough nuggets to have meaningful moments that only really mean something to the die-hard X-Files fan. So, yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to play our usual guessing game.
Yes, go on. 217 episodes. Where do you think this ranks?
Where did Tempest Fugit sit on the spectrum here?
Let's have a look. See. So Tempest Fugit was 46.
Okay. I'm going to go 44.
It actually ranks 49.
Oh, that's
slight drop. Yeah, slight drop. So, obviously you're trying to guess how other people would vote, but maybe gives an inkling as to where you sit on this one in comparison to views on the first one. It's promising. It's tells me that you
personally, when it comes to the two-part episodes, I find they're hard to judge separately, because they're relying on either a great setup or a good conclusion. And if one part falters, it brings both episodes down. But in the same breath, if they both succeed, it brings both episodes up.
Yeah. Like whenever we come to do our top fives of the year, if I'm throwing something from a two-parter in there, I'm always doing it the whole two-parter. I can't, other than like your end of season ones like Anasazi, that was in my top 5 season 2 because it was the last episode of the season. But when you talk about your stuff that's going on in the season itself, I will rarely put just the first part of one in. So right, okay then, so we get into it. Right. So as you know, those who remember from the end of last episode, Mulder was down at the bottom of a lake. He had some lights coming towards him. He just found an alien corpse and a downed UFO.
Yeah.
So he swims away and leaves the boat captain to it. He gets rugby tackled on shore by guys with guns. But my biggest takeaway, as I've just said, was that the captain of the ship that he basically scuppered into getting him out there, he just abandons him.
I think my biggest takeaway here was the slowest running away I've ever seen anybody try to do. And that swimsuit or whatever is just... It just makes him look clumsy.
Yeah, really clumsy.
Yeah, I had a giggle at that because I'm like, oh, good old Mulder, inept at almost everything. Where's Scully to save him?
Oh man, he looks bad in that thing. Okay, so Pendrell's shooter gets away. Paramedics collect Pendrell, and Skinner rocks up. Tell Scully that Frisch is to be arrested for killing Gonzalez and giving out misinformation. He claims the military are admitting fault for the downed plane, but not in the way that Frisch is claiming. So Scully has a nosebleed.
And it's both... It's frustrating because you feel for the appearing, who've went through the motions trying to get this, and one of their agents has been injured. But at the same time, it's entirely plausible, what they're saying. That I'll take the blame for a lesser crime to hide a bigger one, which is pretty much what the military are doing. But at the same time, you're just like, yeah, you're not going to wiggle out of this one, Scully. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
But it does kind of make me think about, like, people in history who've taken the fall for things. And it's like, there's a lot of cases where it's been very convenient for someone else that person happens to be the only suspect, has taken the blame. And it's just like, and it's almost like society knows. People kind of feel like they know, but there ain't jack they can do about it. And it's like, you just have to accept that the history books are going to record it a particular way. So it does tap into that frustration that I can see a lot of people having with real world situations. So Scully picks up Mulder from the military prison, tells him that Frisch and Gonzalez are being held responsible for misdirecting a military plane into the path of a commercial jet, then trying to cover it up. Mulder says bollocks. Shows Scully his radiation burns. Scully says Mike Milano told her about something that's on my other page. Told her about finding Max's sister under lights in the sky. Says she's actually not his sister, but a former aeronautical engineer who's been in and out of psychiatric care. She then informs Mulder of Pendrell's death.
Yes, which you ruined last episode for me.
I'm sorry.
I had no idea that was coming, and you're just thinking, oh. A lot of these things I either don't remember or haven't got this far into the series, so this game was a real surprise. And I got to say, it was kind of sad as well, because it was a fun character that we like to see again and again. I don't think his death is used for a strong emotional impact. Like, I think they're trying to use it as a shorthand, but they've never really taken full advantage of it. If you know what I mean. I'd like to maybe even at the burial later on see Scully and that there or something, just to kind of finish it off. But I just feel as if we're wasting a great character for a little payoff. I do think it's tied in to certain things that are going on, like when we get to the end and we have Mulder's speech about Scully's speech about the keychain and all that kind of stuff. Like Pendrell, in a way, is one of those guys who she's talking about. So it makes that a bit more emotionally resonant. But like you say, this is a character we've enjoyed. We've been charmed by him. We relate to him. I think a lot of guys in particular, being that many of them fancied Gillian Anderson and Scully, and they relate to him. They're on his side, kind of thing. The fact that he fancies her puts us on his side, and he's intelligent as well. He wasn't like your slimy kind of fro-hickey type. He wasn't some numbskull like typical agent like the one she was friends with in the first season. This is an intelligent, down-to-earth, regular dude. So every time he showed up, we got enjoyment from him. I mean, Tellico, for crying out loud, an episode that for some reason I keep bringing up this season. But Tellico, if you remember, he was the only good thing in that episode. He had some stuff where, like, him and Scully got to explain some science bits, and you could tell that he was like really looking up to her, and it kind of brought a little bit of levity into an episode that was otherwise just dull. So yeah, it is a shame, and even more so that he dies off screen. So it's one of those cases where we don't know
for definite. Like, oh, is this going to be one of those? Are they're going to bring him back, and there's going to be some? But he's not quite a big enough character to do that with.
Yeah.
So you're just left in this limbo spot where I didn't see a body, but he's not quite a relevant enough character to warrant bringing back and having some big explanation as to why. So, yeah, shame. Poor Pendrell. A lot of X-Files fans flying lighters when Pendrell went.
It's just, I know the impact's there and stuff, but it almost feels a little bit like Pendrell's dead, and it's like, oh, shall we go and speak to this other guy?
Yeah, I think part of it as well is that two-parter syndrome, where you've got to, like killing off a known character is like it's your easiest go-to big moment, isn't it? Like in any TV show, if you want to do a big episode, kill off a character, and it's like, but I feel like the story itself is big enough and relevant enough and good enough to not need that moment. Him just getting shot is big enough.
Yeah. Would it have lessened any if he was in a coma, fighting for his life, and then suddenly he's back, he's woke up at the end? Wouldn't the fans just have been like, yes, come on, you're still in with a chance.
Yeah. And he wakes up because Scully's grabbed his hand.
Yeah.
That's one for the shippers. Okay. So they visit Max's trailer. Hang on, there was some other stuff in there. So the sister, the revelation about his sister not actually being his sister.
She's not his sister. She's mental.
Yeah, it's not helping their case.
No. It's kind of put across like that, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
Like, she's not his sister. She's crazy.
Yeah, pretty much. Basically, everything they've found, everything they've built up, the strength of their case has suddenly just come crumbling down, because their number one witness is now the number one suspect, and the number one person who could offer clues as to where things are going is now just a whack job who's just throwing things out willy-nilly. Yeah.
It's not even a case of like she may or may not be crazy, because I don't think she is, and I don't think the agents think they are. I think what they're most annoyed about is the sudden lack of credibility that she has. They still believe what she's saying, but nobody else is going to take it.
Yeah. Okay. So they visit Max's trailer, and there's a video cassette of Max talking about his life as an abductee and his mission to expose the truth, juxtaposed with the military at the second crash site with an alien and men with radiation burns, saying, "We found it."
And Scully's just kind of like, you're kindred spirits, if by any other means this could have been you. Yeah.
Just like seeing that trailer is like, I mean, it practically is Mulder, but it's just that he has an apartment. Yeah, because if you look at Mulder's apartment, it is a glorified trailer. It's a glorified trailer because he sleeps on his couch most of the time. We never even see a bed. Up until this point in the series, we've never seen a bed. So he rarely goes there. So it's just, and when he is there, he's just watching either porn or some weird UFO video. So yeah. I feel like Mulder only has an apartment because he's got to have an official address working for the FBI. Like if
it's shower, isn't it?
So, and I do find the video by Max to be quite touching as well, just because you can see an element of Mulder in him, and vice versa. So, Mike Millar wraps up the investigation with his crew when Mulder and Scully rock up. Mulder tells Millar what he thinks really happened, which is that a military plane shot down a UFO mid-abduction causing the plane to crash. Millar says there's no way to prove it. Mulder says not without knowing what Max was carrying. And Scully says something radioactive was on the plane. Millar says he found something, which turns out to be Max's bag.
And this was the abduction scene, isn't it?
No, not quite. No. Oh no, yeah, it is it?
Yeah, as Mulder's kind of telling the story of Max. Is this when you see the abduction?
Yeah, yes. So I think, so as he's telling Millar what happened, we see the abduction.
And let's just talk about this, because for me, this is the standout sequence. This is a sequence so good that you're hoping you're going to see it twice. It's fantastic, because what I love about it is the flashing lights, the shaking of the plane, and then the sudden stillness. I think that's the most eerie thing about it. That sudden just quiet, and then the door opening, the bright light, and the hovering out. Everything about it's making the hair in the back of my neck stand up. It's just freaky. It's breaking all the rules of the world we live in. You know, a plane that has to move or it'll fall out of the sky. Still, that sequence is phenomenally lit, shot, edited, just the way it's allowed to play out. Highly effective.
And just when the beam's switched off as well, because the UFO has been shot down, and then all the bodies start zipping out, and you see people going out through that door and disappearing into the smog, and it's just like, whoa! Like this was 97, 96, 97? Possibly not. Yeah, because the film was 98. So this was 96, 97-ish. So it's like, it holds up. You watch this sequence and you're like, it's nail biting, it's atmospheric, it's just it's eerie, like you say, and it's action packed as well.
I'll tell you what it is. It doesn't feel like TV.
No, it feels like cinema. Yeah, absolutely. But can you imagine with an increased budget as well? Like this
I
was
don't
done.
think they could make that better. That sequence there's just, that's perfect. I think you could only ruin it by trying to add more in. I think that what you don't see is just as powerful as what you do see. I think it just works.
It is fantastic. Okay, so we've got the bag. We know the bag's radioactive. So clearly Max was carrying something, which kind of only feeds into both theories, because Mulder's suggesting it was a piece of a UFO, and Scully is suggesting it was something that, was not. but it is one of those things. It's like we always say, a really good X-File hinges on the idea that both Mulder and Scully could be right. And everything in this is pointing either way. Now, obviously, we're going to side with Mulder's opinion because that's the point of view we always see the show through. But Scully's, you can see why if Scully wrote up her report, it would be believed that it was not what Mulder is suggesting.
It's when you hear the excuses, like the military taking the blame, everything like that, you're like, ooh, that adds a duality to everything. You know, what we've seen and what we're now being told, and they do contradict each other. It's great. Yeah.
Military are happy to take the blame when they can pin it on two guys. So Mulder suggests Scully go see Sharon, who is locked up in a mental institution once more. He returns to Max's trailer. It's been trashed. Trailer park manager speaks to Mulder, asks where to forward his mail. Mulder asks for it, opens a letter to Paul Gidney, his former alias, and finds a ticket stub.
Just a little bit of contrivance just to get this into Mulder's hands, but you don't care, because it's kind of quirky character that just kind of sticks his head in. You know?
Well, it is, but
words he says, like who's going to take care of his estate or something like that.
Yeah.
It's this box.
But I also get the sense from this guy that he liked Max, and that's a key thing there, because it's finding a way to bring that, because Max is dead. He's been dead from the beginning of this two-parter. So how do you reveal anything about a dead character? How do you make us like a dead character, and have warmth to him? And you do it by building up a picture of this guy, whether it's through Sharon, whether it's through the video cassette tape of Max himself, or whether it's through a simple guy like this who, gives off a certain vibe that he liked Max, and that Max was a good tenant, was a bit quirky but quite lovable. So, yeah, it is a bit of a contrivance, but I do like that the impression you get of Max just through this one guy. Like, he don't come in and go, Max never paid his rent and all that kind of stuff. He's like, he's genuinely concerned for him. So Scully speaks to Sharon, who looks doped up. She stole something from her employer. 3 interlocking parts. Alien tech, she says. 2 parts were taken. The other, I don't know. Dun dun dun.
Anywhere.
Could be absolutely anywhere. Anyway, Mulder has found where this ticket stub should take him to, and he's in a queue using the ticket stub to pick up a bag at an airport.
Yeah.
So,
and he's been followed by half of the covert undercover agents, because it looks like it's just most of them.
Yeah.
And they stick out like sore thumbs.
Mulder flashes his badge to get through security when he realises he's being watched. Scully calls, tells him not to open it due to the radiation. It's industrial espionage, apparently. Mulder boards the plane. So, Pendrell's...
There's a wonderful sequence where he uses the X-ray to look at the bag.
Yes,
just before he goes through the plane. So he puts it in there and he's like, Scully, I can see it. It's rectangle.
It's something. Yeah, there's literally nothing nothing recognisable in there.
I like that little moment of like I see it in movies and things like that, where you just get that recognition in the character where they kind of have an idea. I like how that's performed by Duchovny. He's just kind of like, he's on the phone, he's like, yeah, I've got something. And he's like, jumps on to get the X-ray.
Yeah. So Pendrell's killer sits down next to Mulder and they have a chat. Mulder locks him in the bathroom and calls Scully. The man escapes with his plastic gun just after Mulder realises his watch has stopped. And there is another mid-flight abduction. Now, I love this conversation between Mulder and this guy.
Yes, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So this guy he's not just some thug. Like, when he talks to Mulder, you get the sense that he believes wholeheartedly in what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he gives this whole speech about, look out the window, Mr. Mulder. If one of those lights just went off, would you even notice? What about 10 or 100? It's like, we've got to keep as many lights on as possible, and if that means sacrificing a few, then we've got to do what we've got to do. And it's just like, you kind of see it from this guy's perspective, but not necessarily agreeing with it, but you understand. Like, it makes him not just the douchebag kind of villain of the week. Like, we've had that guy that I've pointed out who works for Cancerman's cronies, he's been a hitman, he's shown up several times, and every time he shows up you're like, I didn't notice. It just looked like random bad guy number 3 to me. Whereas this little speech gives this guy some character, tells us a bit about why he does what he does.
He's almost like the protagonist of his own story. He's the good guy trying to do his thing. You have that idea that he believes he's on the right of what he's doing. I do love, again, Mulder, who this guy's trying to almost seduce him a little bit. Sits down, tries to chit chat, but Mulder's already, he knows who he is and has the gun ready. And then he does all the hard work, takes him to the bathroom, locks him in there so securely that he could never escape, and turns his back on it. I'm going to push this cart with wheels against the door, and done. Just Mulder, why?
For such a great profiler, he's not always the sharpest tool in the box, is he?
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, we get another mid-flight abduction. We don't really get to see it this time around. It's just like the lights come, becomes overwhelming. Next thing we know, Mulder's sat there. He's not got a clue what's happened. He just checks the bag, sees that the thing he was carrying is gone, and it's like...
And so is the mustachioed assassin.
Yes.
Yeah. And I like the moment where Mulder's like, put that down. You want to put that down. And the guy's kind of like...
Yeah. Yeah. That's what they're here for, you idiot. Put it down. Let them have it. Or else they're taking you with it. Yeah. But I'd have liked to...
You just know he's going to be probed silly. So, he kind of gets what...
Good and proper.
He gets what he deserves.
Yeah. He was an interesting villain that I think they could have brought back, and may surprise you to know they never do.
Yep.
There you go.
No surprises there. But I'm sure there'll be another midlife father-looking figure with a moustache and a trench coat at some point.
Of course. Okay, so the FBI storms the plane and finds Mulder sitting alone. Pendrell's killer is gone. Sharon inherits Max's trailer. Then Scully chats with Mulder about the gift he got for her.
Yeah.
And she goes into this really long, in-depth, heartfelt soliloquy about how this keychain represents the people who are pioneers and who go after things with religious fervour that no one else will pursue, and that they're kind of these big heroes really that go unsung and unseen, people like Max and Mulder and maybe even herself, and that's what Mulder is trying to tell her with this key ring. And Mulder's just like, I just thought it was a pretty cool keychain.
He's just trying to undercut it, no more than I did, because listening to this speech, which you've explained so wonderfully, and I boiled it down to people are special. Which is yeah, and that's it. Episode done. So wrap up for Max then. Okay, I will say that this was a great episode. I liked it a lot. I feel you like I said, always worried about a conclusion of a two-parter. I think this wraps things up spectacularly well, and I think having that, like I said, wonderful sequence of the abduction was just amazing. I don't think it could ever have been better. I think they could have done other things with the movie, but that sequence was just absolutely perfectly shot. I think being able to add, like you said, Max, the monologues on the cassette tapes, and the effect that he had on other people, even we don't talk about it, like Susan. Now,
Sharon.
They said Sharon, sorry. Yeah, like it's never explained whether she started getting into mental hospitals, like how she was going in there. Some people go in there for respite when they're just feeling a bit stressed, a bit overwhelmed and stuff like that. And she's met Max, and she's obviously had her job, and she's believed in him enough. The job that she's had, she's obviously a smart, intellectual woman, and she has believed him and worked with him. It just shows you the ability that Max had to almost, befriend people and make them believe in what he did. I am rather sad that this two-parter revolving round about Max didn't have Max in it, but it does have his stamp all over it. He's on screen for a minute or two, and he makes a great impact.
Which is kind of the point. Like if you listen to Scully's speech at the end, and if that indeed is the whole reasoning behind Mulder giving her that keychain, not actually having Max in it, even though it's really about him, even though it's his story, it kind of feeds into that he was this unsung hero that did make an impact on people's lives, even though we don't know it, even though we didn't know him. So
so for me it's a 5 out of 5, Brian.
Same. But this we got through this one quite quick. It's and I think that's down to the pacing of it. I think a lot of the scenes in this one are longer than usual.
I found that as well. They're elongated and they've got a lot of information. They're not overblown by any means. They're just longer scenes.
It feels like, like sometimes they have like we said, two-parters where it's not quite enough to make the full thing, but actually if they zoned in on some of the scenes that were special and really dug deeper on them, like they do here, like that conversation that the guy has with Mulder on the plane, it didn't need to go to those lengths, but it feels so much richer as a result of doing that, of having that extended conversation. And so it just feels like there's not as many scenes in this episode than what you get normally, because we've just kind of raced through it, but more seems to happen within the scenes themselves. So it's just cinematic is the word I would use. Like when X-Files was first getting released on video, and they released the 2 and 3 parters as unedited movies, or edited movies, I guess, because they edit like the credits out, and so they release it as a movie. And this one, when it was released on video, I wasn't sure where the episode breaks were. I wasn't quite sure where the end of episode 1 was, and the opening and teaser from the episode 2, because it just fit together so seamlessly and so like a movie, that of all the 2-parters and 3-parters that they've put together like that as a feature, this is the one that always stood out to me as really genuinely feeling like a movie. It's paced like a movie. It's shot like a movie. It's just, it's contained like a movie. So, I love it. 5 out of 5. And it does, because it's so good, it does it brings the first part. I mean, I gave the first part a 5 anyway, but it's just together as a feature. It's great stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little about episode 19, Synchrony.
Synchrony. All right. I'm struggling with it. I think it's the time travel one.
Oh, interesting.
I could be totally wrong on that, but for some reason I think it's the time. There's a time travel episode, and I don't want to say too much, because if the stuff that I'm remembering about it could very well be the twist at the end. So I'll say no more than that, other than if it's the episode that I think it is, I think it's a pretty decent one. Like, really solid. Maybe not like best of the season or anything, but it's in the upper half. It's one I will watch it when I'm doing a run through. It's not one I'll skip.
Right.
So
excellent. Okay, that's something to look forward to. It sounds interesting. Time travel. I don't think we've really encountered that before. So
no, don't think we have.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us on YouTube or on your podcast delivery device, whichever you listen or watch us on. We appreciate it. And if you can give us a review, that would be fantastic as well. And join in the conversation next time when we are going through episode 19, Synchrony. Thanks and bye.